Hi there. Just some pre-show housekeeping stuff. This is the last episode of the first season, and we're going to talk about that. But after this, we're going to be moving on to the drawing of the three, but we're going to take a slight stop in the Stephen King book, The Eyes of the Dragon. If you would like to kind of keep up with this as it goes along, consider buying or checking out both of those on Amazon by going through our tip jar link, Duckfeed.tv/tipjar, where you can use that link and then buy those books. Doesn't cost you anything extra, and it helps support the show. Otherwise, take a look at patreon.com/duckfeed.tv, and, well, you know all this already. Thank you so much for making the season so great. I love the response that the show is getting, and looking forward to several more. Welcome to Radio Free Midworld. It is a Dark Tower podcast, and this week we are talking about the final chapter of the Gunslinger, called The Gunslinger and the Man in Black, part of this book's kind of mission, its quest to make titling these episodes as awkward as possible. And this week, I am joined by Evan Jones Thorne. Hi, Evan.
Hi.
By Jeremy Greer.
Hello.
And by Murph Murphy.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah. As it began, so shall it end.
Cause a wheel. Cause a wheel.
The same crew of folks who about 10 months ago embarked, said, "Hey, we'll do this pilot," and then it became this, and now we're going, and things are pretty good. Yeah. So this is kind of strange. Usually I start by asking whoever is new on the episode how they have been proceeding with the series, or where they kind of came to it from, their history, things like that. But we don't have that crutch right now. And Murph, I know for you, you're kind of reading along with the show, and we'll get to your predictions a little bit later on. Evan, since it's been the longest since you've been on the show, kind of how have things been? Have you been like revisiting the series in any kind of way since we kind of got this rolling?
I have. I've been reading again and just kind of trying to catch up, and I've been listening to the episodes that have aired so far, and really just getting way more excited than anybody should be over the smallest details from the movie that they've released.
Yeah, so it's funny because we talked about the movie way back when. There were scant details available. There was that trailer that leaked here a couple months ago. Big thanks to Allison for bringing that to my attention. But I haven't seen anything since then, aside from just like interviews and people talking about just kind of like setting kind of things. Yeah,
it's mostly been setting stuff, and that trailer was just ridiculous. Like, that was I am completely on board with it after seeing that, and just what little I've been able to figure out, and what they've leaked and what they've released officially, and what they've Idris Elba has tweeted out little tiny details. They're doing something real weird, and I'm very excited.
Yeah. I wouldn't want anything less, honestly. I wouldn't want a straight adaptation, because that kind of seems to run counter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want Zack Snyder's version of the Dark Tower to come to life. No.
I mean, I
don't want that at all.
Oh, you don't like slow-mo?
I mean, I like slow-mo a little, but come on, guys.
Yeah.
You got 7 books to get through. Like, you can just go at 30 frames per second.
Yeah, just feather the fader, You don't have to lean on it.
Remind me again what the movie is adapting. What book?
It's good question is the answer to that, because the stuff that they've released so far that seems to be kind of it's going to take place after the Gunslinger, but also deal with some of his like deal with some of the things that the Gunslinger, the book, takes care of. So it's kind of all over the place, and they're consolidating characters, and some major characters from that I thought were going to be in the movie are absent so far. So it's going to be a weird take, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. I kind of feel like it's the next Dark Souls game where I just don't want to know anything about it until it comes out.
I'm so torn between wanting to know everything and not wanting to know anything. And fortunately, they've been doing a really good job at restricting what you can know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like it's going to be kind of the third or fourth book with smatterings of the first, second, and fifth and sixth.
All right, so all but the seventh.
And then like probably something from the seventh, just cause.
Right.
But yeah, like one of the main characters in the first movie doesn't get introduced until I want to say either Wolves of the Calla or Song of Susanna. Like the female I've seen her described as the female lead is, I can't remember the character's name right now to save my life, but it's somebody that I recognize from the Calla part of the story.
Weird. And thinking back on it, I cannot even think of who that would be or who that is.
I'm sitting here struggling too. Thinking like, who would be. Yeah.
Anybody who it could have been who is major, like, it doesn't make any sense. And we're speaking obliquely because we're trying to avoid spoilers. What I have seen kind of places Jake at the center of this, and that was part of my initial kind of reservation about the movie, is because by putting Jake at the center, it makes it feel kind of like a YA novel adaptation kind of thing.
How those are hot now, super hot.
Yeah, which would probably do something for the ticket sales, but I I don't quite want the Zack Snyder version of that, but I also don't want like the Dark Tower as envisioned by the director of Maze Runner or something like that.
We're not going to get with another the second Divergent reference on this podcast.
No, I don't think so.
I was waiting for that.
No, I'm not drinking a Divergent. I'm drinking a Great Lakes Christmas Ale. So.
All right.
Oh, that's a totally different young adult dystopian future right there.
Yep. They're
escape from the Santa Claus. People in the dystopian future, people have to create toys 365 days a year, only to receive them on the one night. But one spunky young teen can stop it.
Yeah.
With
sounds
her,
like Days of Future Xmas
hot boyfriend.
Yeah, I hate this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't.
Yeah.
Why did you speak it into existence? Believe his
power.
This
is the worst Will Ferrell joint I've ever heard of.
Like, why is he playing the hot boyfriend?
Oh man, I was going to say
on that note, I'm quitting the
So
podcast.
now it's outside, and at least now we can all fight it together.
Yep.
Much like the heroine in my movie, where she has to fight all 7 reindeer.
Oh no. Using Rudolph's severed nose as a lightsaber.
Oh yeah. No, it's like the heart is honored. It just speaks.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. See, this doesn't make any sense because people are listening to this in like early February. They don't realize that we're recording in the middle of December. It's some real pre-tape call-in show kind of stuff.
Can we
good.
Cole, can you just edit that out so we can redo that with a Valentine's Day theme instead?
Yeah.
Just edit all that out.
Let me clap here so we get the edit point.
Okay, so she's fighting St. Valentine's and the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Will Ferrell is her boyfriend.
Yeah. I love that detail is constant.
I mean, that's kind of the only thing this movie has going for it.
Yeah.
Really, it's really the carriage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The underbelly.
Evan, if you can find a couple of cool links that give some of those details. I don't mean to give you homework, but I haven't been looking for those, and I would like to put those into the show notes if people are curious. Yeah.
It's, by the time this comes out, it's going to be even older news than it already is. But yeah, I'm happy to dig those up.
Yeah, I mean, no sense in not doing it, I suppose. Yeah, so we should probably get going. Thank you for sharing those details. With the Gunslinger and the Man in Black. So last time, Roland and Jake followed the Man in Black who I have. When I was writing these notes, I got tired of writing the Man in Black, so I just wrote MIB after the first subheader or something like that. So chasing the Men in Black, Agent K and J, making some havoc in these subway tunnels, kind of the arteries of this gigantic subway system, this hulk of the old ones and their technological society, right? Roland shared a story of his coming of age, talked about sacrificing his bird friend David to become a gunslinger in this very brutal fight. And then right after that, Roland sacrificed Jake by letting him die in a bridge collapse. And now, with that price paid, we are set up for a very strange chapter. Because in a book that has been flashbacks and world building and, setting the stage and, some action, this whole last chapter, the denouement is just conversation, a little bit of magic, a little bit of, sorcery and deception, but it is just them hashing it out.
Yeah. Can I say I really like this chapter and I really dislike this chapter?
I was gonna say there's a big butt coming, isn't there?
Yeah, this is I'm really conflicted on this. And I'm going to start positive because we're in 2017 now. Wink, wink. And I'm trying to stay positive.
Mm-hmm. Can you retake that? It is St. Patrick's Day now.
Oh God.
Oh geez.
Yeah, we had some schedule slip. I'm not going to edit this for 3 months. No, but you're good. So start with the positive. Like lay out your theses. So we can get your impression.
I went to Catholic school, so I am an ex-Catholic, and the whole Golgotha. What is it? Coming to meet Isaac or something about his Isaac.
Yeah. Go gather wood to build the fire to remember your Isaac. Yeah. Right.
Any kind of, biblical, I don't want to call it deep reference, but just beyond whatever. We get a lot of biblical references in this part of the story, and I'm into that kind of imagery. And also it's a, kind of a pit of skulls. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a gravel pit, but it's mostly femur. Yeah. So yeah, as a, this is some Seventh Seal type shit going on, it just kind of hashing out this cosmic stuff in this setting. So I agree, all that's really good. I also like the Man in Black reaching into our world for reference. And continuing to do that. And Roland knows nothing. He MIB drops that Isaac reference and he's like, I got nothing. I just want to kill you.
Roland is kind of steadily clueless throughout this entire conversation. Roland never seems to have his legs on solid ground, which I think is we've seen Roland kind of be powerless before, but up until this point, he's been kind of a relentless engine of forward momentum. And now you really see him just kind of totally shaken. And now that he's finally got what he wants, he's, the typical dog with a bone. Now that he's got it, he has no idea what to do with it, which I find really interesting.
Yeah. And really, he just kind of defaults to his default, really, which is to try and kill him. He's right here, and I think he tries to kill him, or mentions killing him 6 times.
Yeah, it's really funny.
And he said it a couple chapters ago, would you kill your answer so easily? What's the what's the negative? Just so we can kind of lay this out, because I want to get your impression as somebody who is coming to this fresh.
So my negative is a little bit further. It's after we get to the vision, and it's really, and this might be the Lord of the Rings problem in that, the Lord of the Rings, that's so derivative.
Yeah,
but the whole size, size is the thing that we can't possibly comprehend. And what if we're just an atom on another blade of grass, man?
I mean, that was literally played for comedy in Animal House. That's Donald Sutherland's whole kick,
Is that I can't tell if King is trying to be serious here, and the Red King is just a dude with has been smoking up too much, so he's got red eyes. But that entire vision kind of really was. It felt like King was trying to go for this really weird majesty of like everything is really big, but it kind of just came off as like, this is something I would have written in 9th grade if I had smoked weed.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting at a core idea. Like, there's nothing here that is a lie about the cosmology so far. There's some lies later on when we talk about like the mechanics of the way some of the stuff works. But that idea of, see the world in a handful of dust or something like that. That is a theme. In what can contain a world and what is, like the thing he sees in that vision. We'll get there.
Right.
That becomes an important point, and appropriately, that is something that was added in the revision.
Oh,
not the size thing, but specifically what he sees, the blade of grass, not the whole thing about the size. Like, this was written, in 1973. Like, so
okay.
it has that going for it at the very least. I don't know, like, so I'll throw it to like Evan or Jeremy, because I don't feel like I can offer a good defense of this. Like, does that notion work for you?
I can jump in here because reading this now at 36 years old is a much different experience of reading it when I was like 13. And I don't know, it was either 13 to 15. I don't quite remember how old I was, but this was like my first exposure to these kind of concepts of like, oh man, what if we are just an atom on a blade of grass? I'm never mowing grass again. Like, it kind of was, it was kind of mind blowing at that young age. And again, this is something that Murph just spoke to with the Lord of the Rings problem. If you wait, if you read 20 years worth of fantasy novels and then read Lord of the Rings, you're just not going to like it that much. Mm-hmm. It's not that great.
Yeah.
But coming back to this, it is very kind of trite and rote. I think it's written fairly well. Like, I'm into what was happening, but like the actual cosmology of it kind of left me flat this time. Although, man, I specifically wanted to be on this chapter because of this, like, this vision. Like, this was what I remember, like, tying me into the Dark Tower series as a whole. Like, reading this and thinking, like, okay, this world is this big, and here's this, like, obstinate, like, gunslinger that is going after the very, very center of it. Like, I want to see what happens when, when this force meets this object. Like, I want to see what's going to happen with this. And you could argue whether the series delivers on it or not, but like, reading this now, I'm still interested. I want to see what happens afterwards. But boy, like, I've seen this movie and I've read this book and I've seen this in comic books, and then I read Grant Morrison, right? And I was like, so this is where all of this is going from.
Yeah. So, and this is likely, there are probably any number of antecedents that came before this, both like science fiction too, like, that idea of, again, that is something that is outsized in this presentation of these ideas, is the whole, a solar system in a single atom here, right? That's like a science fiction kind of thing. That's also like the Man in Black kind of talking circles around Roland a little bit, because he has no idea what any of this is. Like, he's a learned man, but like there are some concepts that are being dropped here. And there's something I love about the way that the Man in Black is written, specifically because, the majority of this chapter is him speaking. We've only seen him, like in fleeting glances, in recollections, of people that he interacted with, or, as the result of the traps that he laid in his path. So like, the amount of screen time that he gets here, and just the cadence of his voice, and George Godal in the audiobook version of this sells it really, really well. If you go and listen to that, like, the Man in Black is kind of a bastard, but he's a showman,
Right. He's very much a character that I like, kind of your Lokis, your Ravens, Coyote, kind of like, oh yeah, here's this evil thing that's just kind of has been gotten. He's not the most powerful person, but he's gotten by on his wits and trickery. Mm-hmm. And he's here. He's putting on a show for you right now. This is his element.
Yeah. In
this pit of skulls, roasting a rabbit, and laying down tarot cards.
Yeah.
And blowing someone's mind.
Yeah, he's a ham, and he's got all of the attention. Evan, I want to make sure you get a chance to chime in just on the broad strokes of this before we get into the details.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about this chapter is that it does kind of fill out the Man in Black as a character. It gives us, like you'd said, more of a sense of his voice, which is, he's one of the most interesting characters in, I think, all of King's work.
Yep.
And the fact that he kind of pops up in so many different forms in so many different books is fascinating. But maybe my favorite detail about this chapter is that he tells Roland that he isn't his real enemy. He's just an agent of the real bad guy.
Yeah, the king with the red hands, which is an amazing piece of imagery.
Yeah.
And not only that, he's never met the person that he's working for. This force just came to him when he before he had his apotheosis, is the way he says it.
So yeah, he's never met the entity that he's working for. Roland's never even heard of him. All that we know about is the Man in Black, and here he is at the end of this book telling us, "Oh, I'm not the guy. It's this other guy."
Yep, your king's in another castle.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a slightly Lovecraftian kind of influence that I like. It's a hint of mystery, you can't even handle the fact that you couldn't even handle knowing the things that I know.
Well,
it's so beautifully convoluted, and the fact that I don't really know enough about tarot to make the connection, but the fact that this all happens while he's doing a tarot reading for Roland has always just kind of been weirdly beautiful in my mind ever since the first time I read it.
Yeah.
It just seems very fitting in a bizarre sort of way that I can't totally make sense of.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I do know a little bit about tarot when we get to that. So I can speak to the two actual cards that he pulls.
Yeah. So even that has a measure of pageantry and fraud to it. I'm gonna pass over a couple of details here, specifically because one of my favorite lines, as Roland is describing. So the Man in Black finally lifts his hood. It's just a dude. It goes over his features, and it just kind of outlines he's got black hair and he has a widow's peak and he's got these very thick lips and very sharp eyes. His nose is nondescript. So I'm picturing that Futurama where Fry loses his nose because the aliens take it for an aphrodisiac.
Oh god!
Without a nose, straight up Voldemortin. But the important thing here. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really like this part where he talks about having many different faces and choosing his first one, choosing his original one, as almost if he was doing Roland a favor. And Roland absolutely does not give a shit about this. He's this is not what I came here for. I don't care what faces you have. I don't care that it's this one. I don't care that you have a Voldemort nose. By the way, how do I know the word Voldemort? He just does not care. He's please just give me my answers.
Yeah, but so you get the sense that the actual face is extended as a gesture of trust, right? I'm gonna be real with you, and just I don't care. And just because he could be lying about that too. There's no telling what this is. And Roland's only response is, "Oh, I thought you'd be older." To which MIB, our Agent K here fires back, "Well, we're both effectively immortal, so
Yeah, that's a big old truth bomb drop there. What? Record scratch.
The modifier there is at least for now, which I think is just it's almost like a contradiction in terms. You're immortal for a little while. But what does that mean? That's the shitty scent of the immortal stick. I mean, I don't want.
It's a quantum immortality. Just you're both immortal and not at the same time. But here's this first encounter. They're meeting each other quite literally face to face, and again with this pageantry. The Man in Black starts a fire by casting a magic spell, even though he has matches, just to show, right?
Not even that. He doesn't even say, it's not that he has matches. He explicitly says, "Oh, I've got matches."
Yeah, I've got matches. I just wanted to do it this way because it seemed.
When they announced that Matthew McConaughey was going to be playing the Man in Black, it was this particular scene that I immediately thought of, just of Matthew McConaughey just being an asshole, lighting a fire with unnecessary panache just because he could. And it's It's going to be perfect. It's going to be so good. They have to keep that scene in.
My relationship with that casting decision has changed so much. They said, "Oh, Matthew McConaughey playing Man in Black." Like, oh, okay. You mean the all right guy? And I've made the joke several times, even on this show. But then I watched True Detective season 1, and that's dope as fuck.
I still haven't even seen that yet. I just am a genuine, unabashed McConaughey fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're a McConaugheyvian.
That seems a bit much.
Yeah. But he does that, and then he doesn't just catch a rabbit. It's a little bit of this cool little parallel of what Roland does when he sees the Ark of Brown and shoots it. Just shoots a rabbit from his hip. Impressive thing. Well, the Man in Black, he gets a rabbit by doing a magician's trick and pulling it out of his sleeve. He just drops it out.
There's an alternate universe where Joe Bluth is playing the Man in Black, and he just sets himself on fire during this scene, right? That has to happen.
Well, I guess my quest ends here. This dipshit died. Yeah. But Roland is superstitious, and he doesn't want to eat the enchanted meat. And then, so the Man in Black pulls out his own custom tarot deck, which is not the way that works. He just added the cards to represent what he wanted to say. Sorry, I think that's so funny. So Murph, well, walk us through. Walk us through these through these cards if you can.
So when I said I was an expert, I meant my wife is an expert and she has explained it to me. So this is all secondhand expertise. He gets the two real cards that he pulls are the Hanged Man and the Tower, and he gets the Hanged Man one pretty much correctly in that he says this isn't about death, because the Hanged Man is not about like death in the traditional sense. It's more about betrayal, or you're trapped in a pattern and you're trying to break it. Yeah. So I don't know if that's any way relevant to what's going to happen, but
your fate is not your own. I think is a way to summon that up. Right, he's beholden to something else.
Correct. Yeah. So that would, if that's true, then that would align with his tarot card reading. And then I guess the Tower that he pulls in the end, has just really almost universally just means you're trapped. Mm-hmm. But I think the Tower is always about imprisonment, either like physically or spiritually.
Yeah, that's astute. for a lot of reasons, and there's a appalled silence as we listen to you hit this.
Okay. I was like, oh no, I'm failing miserably.
No. I mean, right now, like the most on point read with the evidence that we have is that he is a slave to this tower. He's a junkie for it, right? And, his fate and the Tower's fate are tied up, and, he is a prisoner to always be drawn toward it.
Okay, then I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if King knew a little bit about tarot and was just like, oh yeah, Tower, imprisonment, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Hanged Man also kind of calls back to hacks a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's kind of obvious that it not super relevant to the actual meaning of the card, but, it's there.
It's a good echo, especially because like hacks was our first exposure to Gilead. That was.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little bit bummed that I didn't get to talk about that part of the book because it's very interesting.
Yeah. Did you have like a tight like 3 sentences on
it? You just learn a lot about Roland as a character in a very short number of pages.
Mm-hmm. It's very dense. With the Roland detail.
Yeah, and there's stuff that doesn't seem significant that really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just as far as character development goes, and it's I don't know. I like that chapter more every time I read it, being more familiar with the rest of the series.
Yeah. This is my 3rd time going through the Gunslinger. The first way back when I first read this, the second when I went through it on an audio when the show got, I was about to say greenlit, which is a weird thing to say. Like the network bigwigs said, yeah, go do this when it got funded. And then the third time, preparing, or third, fourth, fifth, preparing for the show as it goes. And yeah, the Gunslinger
is this
is
show
really,
in replacement to the R-Zone zone? Is that what happened? Did we trade this for a better show? Oh man, this
is it's
R-Zone got canceled mid-season, and we just had to scramble for a replacement.
Yeah, well, no, we had to sacrifice the R-Zone because it was too beautiful, and like that is how we opened the door to
2016.
You're right. We did open up this year with the R-Zone zone. Yeah. So let's talk about the bullshit tarot cards that he puts in, specifically this echo of the Oracle's prophecy, talking about the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man, we already talked about that. Jake is the Sailor, which is not a tarot card, not at all. That's actually the next that is the next comic series that's coming out, is the Sailor. So I wonder if we're gonna see Jake's story in that. Those comics are good, y'all.
Yeah, I have not read any of the comics yet. I'm saving myself, as it were. Yeah, but I'm very excited.
We're going to cover them. We talked about it last season.
Yep.
It's not the ones.
I'm interested in those comics because the ones that I've read were very, very specific covers of the books. Mm-hmm. Like they went through the same material, and I didn't realize until relatively recently that there was actually new material available in the comics. So those are the ones that I'm most interested in. The one I read was just a retread of Roland's history, so I was like,
that's not very good. That one in particular. But like the new material, it's a little much on the cosmology stuff, but like it's still worth looking at. Who knows how canonical it is at the very least. So yeah, we have Jake as the Sailor. We have the prisoner again being presented as this person with a literal monkey on his back, which is kind of on the nose.
A little bit, yeah.
And then we
especially because in the last chapter, like they literally capitalized the word in all caps, heroin. Yep. Like, right?
Just in case you need a reminder again. Then we have the Lady of Shadows, which is again just kind of not a thing. She's sitting in a spinning wheel, and there's a line in here: "She broke the blue plate," which is such a non sequitur here, and also where it's presented later.
I do like this line though, because Roland asked, like, what is that? Of all of the things to ask about, he's worried about the blue plate. And then the Man in Black's response is, I don't know, which is just great. I love that.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what it means, man. I'm just pulling the cards.
You know how much coke I was on when I wrote that?
I mean, it's for special.
Yeah, it's a for special.
It is for special.
Yeah.
Oh boy. If I can bring us back to the Sailor and the tarot.
Yes.
That kind of sounds a little bit like the full tarot card.
Yeah.
Which is if I in the traditional reading is actually about the hero. Yep. Which I like. That's always my favorite. Like, kind of like, oh, this is what it actually means.
Yeah.
Like, your traditional fantasy protagonist is always the fool, because that's what like the interpretation is. Mm-hmm. in like tarot is like, oh, you're about to be like a hero for something.
Yeah, you're going to kind of bumble through a little bit and affect a lot of change, most of which is beyond what you otherwise would be expected to do.
Right, but you've got good intentions, blah blah, and I guess that follows Jake ? He said.
Yeah,
silence on the other end.
Okay. Yeah, it's we'll talk about that after book 2. But Jake is definitely a heroic figure, and to see him pop up again here with no other context, that could be considered to be a little bit of a hint of what is meant by there are other worlds than these. The fact that he is, that he still plays into the Gunslinger's fate in the in kind of the same breath as the prisoner and the Lady of Shadows is a good thing. Yeah. And then there's also death, not a card, death but not for you. That's a little bit of a famous line. And then life, but not for you, as the tower covers and consumes him.
Yeah, I liked that line. That was a real cool Like, oh, this is a riddle.
And you're not at the center of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like life and death, the most important things. Like, like none of this applies to you. Yeah. But then we get to some of the pretty cool stuff. We get that detail that the Man in Black is not who Roland seeks. He's just the emissary. And then Roland's like, all right, well, I'll look for the other guy. And then leaps at him, says, if I can't use my guns, I'll use my hands. And
great action hero line.
Yeah. and the Man in Black thwarts this with the most amazing kind of illusion. Like, it describes, I should have actually gotten the actual quote that is pulled, but like, he escaped as though down a long corridor and then drew Roland with him, and then presents Roland with this vision, which is part of what we're talking about here. And this is kind of the most overt Lovecraftian thing, which is the Man in Black counters the Gunslinger's attack, counters Roland's attack physically with a kind of a knowledge attack, showing him something literally cosmic in order to kind of like threaten and push his mind to the edge and show him the forces that he's kind of messing with, right?
Yeah, I've like everything so far in this chapter. So far, this this is very, very cool.
Very quick, what is happening here? There's a whole "Let There Be Light" motif as Roland is floating in the void, and the Man in Black kind of creates the world around him with words, and then just kind of sends him falling upward out past the solar system and into this gigantic light that Roland can just barely look at. And is kind of like in agony saying, oh, let me out of this. I want, but okay, give up the tower and I'll let you out. No. Until he, ultimately breaks out of it.
Yeah, this is some weird ex-Catholic biblical shit going on for me, because we've got a kind of the reversal of the creation story, where "let there be light" is a very positive, life-affirming phrase that is spoken, by God to create light, and here it is being used by the Man in Black to like literally hurt Roland.
It's being profaned, like in a very like definitional way.
And yeah, going back a little, like Golgotha is like closely tied to the crucifixion of Jesus.
Yeah.
Isaac, well, in the story of Isaac, Isaac doesn't get sacrificed.
Right. Like what was important was he got right up to the edge and showed that he would have, Abraham specifically. Yeah.
So like we've got 3 inversions right there.
Mm-hmm.
Rule of 3.
Oh, yeah, rule of 3. There we go. That is an important number for now.
I really enjoy that. Like the Man in Black does this whole "let there be light, let there be water, let there be land." Then we see dinosaurs for some reason. Like there's the whole like everything is kind of compressed in this thing, and it's obviously a vision, but it's a vision that I think really plays into the Man in Black's character of, I can show you things, I can't actually do any of this, and I find that like really interesting, especially where we are right now. And then there's a moment where right before or right after the Man in Black sends Roland falling up into the solar system, Roland sees the curvature of the Earth and is like, oh, I guess my teacher was right. It's really curved. Interesting. Like throughout all of this mind-boggling stuff, he's finally gotten to the man he's been chasing for literally years, and he's like,
I would have won that.
He was right.
Yeah, yeah, it was right. The other thing here, this is a little bit of a what is that attack that Sephiroth uses at the end of Final Fantasy VII, like the Cosmic Golgotha or whatever, where it's a 3-minute long summon where he sends meteor through the entire solar system. So I guess like where that world, like where Final Fantasy VII takes place, has like Jupiter and Saturn and shit. Because we saw all of those destroyed as I took 9,999 damage. Non-glibly, what we're seeing here is our solar system is what he's being dragged up and through. So take that for what you will. It is a detail that, again, starts to fix where this takes place in the cosmos, right? Am I wrong about that? I'm being greedy with
no. I think I'm in agreement. Yeah.
I think this confirms that, hey, I mean, we were kind of confirmed we're on Earth already, but like this is Earth where Earth should be.
Yeah. Like it's confirming the suspicion, right? And so we're brought back, and this was just a dream. Like our friend the Man in Black just kind of like put him to sleep and says, "Oh, I don't want to be near you. Talk in your sleep," and then says, "Oh, your dad would have come back drooling from that. You're doing okay." Like, so okay, this guy knew my dad. Huh, that's weird. And then we get into this idea of showing the universe, showing the Man in Black as this, boorish cad burping and throwing bones into the fire, and basically saying like, yeah, I came to your mom as Martin, and I have been serving the King's Red Hand all along. So again, connecting these two characters, they are one and the same.
Hey Murph, was this a surprise to you as a new reader? Because rereading this, like I can't separate having known this for basically all of my life, but rereading it, I just sort of assumed that this was the case. Like I'm curious if that worked as a like actual twist for you or not.
I think I was surprised. I just didn't care. Like
okay.
Like I mean, like I didn't put it together, but I also was not. My mind was not blown. Like I like yeah. So I want to tell you yes, but I didn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm to me like I hate people seem to really like the flashbacks, and they're just not really working for me. So I don't know. Like I'm not into Magical Kid Academy.
Yeah.
Where you get hit with sticks.
Magical Kid Stick Academy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It might be no. So I didn't really put it together, but I wasn't really trying either.
Yeah.
Man, I can't get enough of the like. Once you tell me that the civilization has fallen, I very, very much want to see like how it was before, and that's why like all that flashback stuff, especially when in the previous chapter, or maybe it was 2 chapters ago, where Roland can't help himself but like blabbering to Jake about Gilead and all these things. It's like that stuff is just my bread and butter. I love it. So
yeah.
It's interesting to see that difference. I wonder if that's just because I'm so charmed with. I was with it as a child.
I'm really trying to have. I'm getting in trouble with this because I really do like Magical Kid Academy. Like Name of the Wind is one of my favorite books, and that's just like Magic Kid Academy, but also I'm the best. So I don't know. Like it's weird that it is not working for me.
Yeah. I don't want to presume that my journey through this is going to be the same as yours, or that yours will be the same as mine has been. I initially was put off by the flashbacks. I felt like they a little bit broke the pacing of things. I was very concerned with what was happening in the present in this world, because King did a very good job of setting up the stakes for this. What I will say is that stuff has my appreciation for it has grown over time, and maybe it just takes going through it and seeing where it fits in later, in the whole picture, to appreciate what's being done with that.
And that might have hit it right on the head, because there seems to be a lot of interesting stuff happening in the present. Let's get to that.
Yeah, the fireworks factory is there. I can see it. Yeah. So now we get into the discussion of scale, and there's a little bit of a history lesson talking about these old ones and their cabals, their companies, this North Central Positronics, again, a proper noun that is added in later on. We've seen that name not just on the talking hand car that we saw last chapter, but on the water pump that is powered by the atomic slug, this high-tech company who, along with the rest of the old ones, conquered cancer and aging and walked on the moon, which Roland just takes exception to. I don't believe you.
Oh man, so good.
And then we get into this treatise that King is writing through the Man in Black, saying new knowledge doesn't bring answers, it just brings more questions. And this gets into that Donald Sutherland moment of talking about the world being contained in a blade of grass.
Like I really like the idea of like, oh, this is knowledge is different from insight. which, like the whole shoulders of giants, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I've written too many scripts in my day job talking about cloud computing to actually have when I read this before, I thought, oh wow, that's incredibly profound, and then it became the basis of every single story that I wrote for these companies at my day job.
Look, you have knowledge, but what you really need is insight.
The amount
what
of
if
data
your data was only a blade of grass in another person's data form?
The amount of data that you're gathering changes every single day. It grows and grows, and there's so much that you can't even manage it. What if there was one tower where all of it would converge? North Central Positronics presents the new beams. That's right.
Did any of you guys download the North Central Positronics smartphone app?
No.
What is that?
It was a cool idea that they released to promote the announcement of the movie, and it didn't ever really work for me. Like I tried it out, but basically you download it and it looks like it's just an app released by a tech company. Like, hey, we're a company. Check out this thing that we're giving you. and the idea behind it, and I was really excited and I was really bummed that I couldn't get it to work anywhere, is that it uses your phone's GPS and certain geographical locations. You look through your phone and it's the camera, so you see the world. But then it'll put ley lines and stuff over the real world, depending on where you are. Yeah. And it was I don't know. I'm a total sucker for the idea of augmented reality, even though the reality of augmented reality is usually disappointing at this point anyway.
Yeah.
Hey guys, send a new Pokemon in Pokemon Go.
I was going to say, I played Pokemon Go for all of a week and a half.
Yeah. This is so the app is called Sombra Group.
That's what it was. Yeah, Sombra Group.
Yeah, not related to the Overwatch character. But yeah, North Central Positronics being reimagined as an app developer or a Silicon Valley thing is so appropriate.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I'll put that in the notes. I wonder if that's still active. I'm very, very curious to see if that still works.
I wound up deleting it.
It's available on iOS. I'm getting it now.
I might try it out again. It might have been an issue with my old phone that it didn't work, but the idea was super cool.
Nice. Yeah, I'll put links to both the iOS and Android version in the notes here for people to look. Thank you again for being for bringing that to my attention. To all of our attentions. Yeah. So talking about these, this company that brought all of this about, but kind of only sowing the seeds of their own destruction, right? So this is a great, it's a very good kind of presentation of this Lovecraftian idea, which is the great old ones were not just these, or were not these aliens who came here, and existed beyond scale. They were it's just our society, sufficiently advanced to have technology become magic and then have all of that wash away. And then, talks about what their final goal was, which was to, once they understood everything, to try and understand size, to try and, look both, small and large to see what the extent of the universe was. Size encompasses life. The tower encompasses size. And they ultimately found it,
Oh, well, yeah.
What's that?
Nothing. Yeah, I like his.
Me and Mark were both playing with this app is what happened.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to think. I was remembering him talking about what happens when you get to the edge of the universe.
Yeah,
there's not just like a sign and a brick wall or whatever.
Yeah,
that's a great kind of what happens if you do that's. So the whole what if we're just an atom thing, really I'm not into, but I've been awed by size before. Yeah. And that resonates with me, and the concept of, oh well, what if this thing doesn't have an end? That's really cool to me. Mm-hmm. Just thinking about, oh man, with our conventional speeds, if we ever wanted to just get from one star to the other star, we would literally be there forever. Like, oh man.
Yeah. It's just like, what happens when you get to the end of it? What if there's a door? Like, what if you're not going towards the edge, but what if you're going towards the center of everything? When you reach that center and you climb, will there be a room at the top? Will there be God? And there's this kind of like back and forth between the two of them, where there are things that neither of them will speak about. They're kind of outraged by the by the idea of these things being introduced to conversation. So so Roland's like, hey, don't talk about what's at the top of the tower. I'm going to go and find it. And before this is a plot detail that I completely forgot to hit, which is after the Man in Black, after Walter showed him this vision, right? He asked, like, hey, so what was at the end of that?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up before we got too far away, but then we got too far away from it, so I'm glad that you're bringing it up.
Yeah, but it's like there is stuff that they either won't or can't talk to each other about, and this is one. The Man in Black had the power to show Roland this thing that almost broke his mind, but did not actually know what it was. He showed it, but he didn't create it, and it's something that he doesn't have any insight into. And this reveals him to be a massive phony. It sounds like you had something to say about that, Evan. So like
it's just one of my favorite. I guess reveal is almost too strong a word, but I love them just playing into the idea of the Man in Black as just the ultimate con man, which is kind of played out in every appearance that he makes in all of King's books. Mm-hmm. And Roland calls him out on it, and I can't think of any other character who calls him out on being a fake. And it's you don't know, he said, and began to smile. Oh, great sorcerer who brings the dead to life, you don't know, you're a fake. I know, the Man in Black said, but I don't know what. And then Roland tells him what he sees at the end of the vision. And the Man in Black asks, like, to confirm, like, are you sure that's what you saw? And then just kind of moves on from it. And it's just such a weird dynamic between the two of them that I really, really love.
Yeah. It's the biggest victory that Roland has over him. He saw something that the Man in Black, this seer, this sorcerer, could not see. And it's provided there. What Roland saw, in that light, in this, huge kind of vision of almost good, was this single blade of grass, but it was purple. And that's all we can say about that for now.
Cole, you mentioned that wasn't in the original book, or that was added in later.
I don't know the purple if the purple idea was still there.
Oh, okay. I thought I remembered.
No, okay. So the blade of grass, the purple blade of grass, was still there. There was some element later on. I forget what I was referring to specifically.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, I thought I remembered the purple blade of grass, because I just remember thinking like purple grass, and again, like young teenage Jeremy, right? Like, wow, that's so weird.
It's so alien. Wait a minute. So you're saying this world is like ours, but the grass is purple?
Oh man,
I've only seen that in my Toe Jam and Earl games.
Hey man, what if what I see is green, but what you really see is sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Good.
No, I'm trying to come up with there was a really neat kind of exchange in here, and I'm trying to find it in my Kindle. It's where he says, and he's talking about who's been up the tower, I think. And I think the Man in Black says, well, no one has. And then Roland like corrects him and says, well, God has, because you just said there's God's up there.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up too.
Yeah.
Because it kind of actually follows really well with the last scene that we just talked about a while back. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's talking about the room, and if there was a room at the top of the tower, all the worlds, all the universes met in a single nexus. Would you dare climb to the top, Gunslinger? Could it be that somewhere above all of endless reality there's a room you dare not? And then that's kind of the break in the chapter. And then the first line of the next section of the chapter is someone has dared.
Yeah.
which is, just so overboard dramatic and great, and I love it.
And I also like that next line from Roland where he says, well, somebody has dared it could be God or the king. And then he kind of thinks and he's like, oh, wait, the room's not empty, right? Like I'm not chasing an empty room. And something about King's writing here, like you can almost hear the trepidation in Roland's voice of like just a little bit of lack of faith in what he's actually chasing, although he never loses the determination that he should be chasing it.
I never got it as lack of faith in what he's chasing. I always got that he was just kind of like putting the Man in Black on blast again. Someone has dared God or the king that you spoke of, or is it empty? Mm-hmm. and then the response is, I don't know. And fear passed over the Man in Black's bland face, which is a very interesting reaction, and I don't think the one that Roland expected.
Yeah, he's pressing him for details, which Roland wants, but the Man in Black either does not have or cannot say.
See, I interpreted that as and maybe I'm just completely off here, as like crisis of faith. He just has a little mini, because he says like, oh yeah, I've never seen this Red King. I don't, I've only been doing it because some voice in my head told me to do it, and then. It must be true because I've got this power. But then just maybe for like a moment, he's like, oh shit, maybe what if I'm wrong?
Yeah. What if I give him my life too?
God, what have I done?
or even more like, oh, what if there is not this power that, that is waiting for me at the end of this, or, that will come to me through this. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very kind of weird moment that I've had in my own kind of spiritual journey of like being raised, God, coming up again, Catholicism. What if I'm wrong? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh God.
Yeah. Oh God. Wait. Oh, what? Oh no! I don't even know who to owe.
Who do I exclaim now?
Yeah, I don't mean to.
I need a name to take in
vain.
No. I need a name to take in.
It's a very humanizing moment for this inhuman figure.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about this king, and let's talk about kind of when they get down to these brass tacks. Like,
so he lives on a hill. He likes propane.
Yeah. I love this line or this idea, like, we're not going to talk as friends. We're going to talk as equal, because friends will lie because they care for each other. We're going to tell the truth because we don't care. Like,
can I read that line, because it was the only one that I noted when I was reading this chapter, and I absolutely love it. It's friends and lovers lie endlessly, caught in the web of regard, which is just a great turn of phrase, like caught in the web of regard. Like it's something that you can definitely like. It speaks to me of like, you have these members of your family, or they like whoever are your friends that you respect, that you don't want to hurt their feelings. Mm-hmm. They're going to put all of that aside and speak to one another as equals now. Like, this is a professional engagement. Like, we have to have this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it is very well put, and it describes it's almost the Men in Black like falling to Roland's level of business, right? Or falling to like the amount of the amount of directness that Roland expects out of this exchange, right? And there's a detail here saying like, hey, this whole night is this night will last as long as we need it to. My king has enchanted this, and it will go on forever. If it absolutely has to.
Is this when the tobacco falls out of his cloak?
That's a little bit later, but we can talk about it. It's around this point where so Roland has refused the food, right? Like, he has opted to eat the salty jerky with his mouth that is so riddled with sores, because he is afraid of the enchanted meat, but he cannot turn away the tobacco. And this tobacco is, it does something to him. It focuses his attentions, but also kind of like puts him in a haze.
And then he wakes up the next morning and doesn't remember any of it, which further just is like, hey man, do you ever really look at your hands?
Sounds like some wacky tobacco to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been forever since he's had actual stuff. He's been pulling crumbs out of the bottom of his poke sack for decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Give him a little bit of license to enjoy that dank backy. But they're talking about this. So the king enchanted the knight, and the man in black talks about this ageless stranger that he's going to have to face, that Roland will have to face. This its name is Legion, changed from in the initial drawing of this, or the initial draft rather, Merlin, who we've kind of referenced before, making it someone else and basically saying like, hey, someone is taking you seriously. Like, this is not going to be easy, specifically because you have proven yourself so competent in moving against our forces.
So that's a weird change, because Merlin ages backwards, and Legion is another biblical reference to just like a bunch of demons. So
yeah, it's definitely fraught. There's a little bit of a push and pull around who Merlin ought to be and what role he plays. It gets a little bit kind of fan servicey in the comics, and also
sorry. Go ahead. Are you saying Maryland or Merlin?
It's spelled Maryland, Maerlyn. That may be pronounced the same way, but it is. Okay. I'm just saying it the way that I read it in my head.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was confused. It's cool.
No, it's fine. But yeah, saying like, oh, you're gonna have to face this person as it goes. Kind of building up this large conflict with this stranger who darkles and tinks and is in all times, but there is one greater than he. Is what the Man in Black says before stopping, because he is terrified of saying anymore.
Is this the first reference we get to Endworld? Because I think we've heard of Midworld a couple of times, if I remember correctly. But this is the first time where and obviously Midworld implies an Endworld, but there's something so frightening about Endworld. Like, even way before we're going to know anything about it, except that like he's over there. Like, even to speak of things in Endworld is to speak of the ruination of one's own soul. Like, you don't even look at it. You don't talk about it. We don't mention it at Christmas dinner. You don't talk about Endworld. And it's just something that's like I just remember reading this and thinking like, ooh, that's scary.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of change in here as well, because they used to speak of the beasts in Endworld that rest there. So we've heard of Endworld. That is where New Canaan and Gilead rest. Midworld is where we're at the edge of when we reach the end of this, when we're kind of in the West, which doesn't make a whole great lot of sense, but again, timey-wimey, spacey-wazy. And Endworld will follow. But yes, it is setting up. It's building this anticipation more than anything else, right?
Building anticipation with regard to Endworld is kind of an interesting thing to do here when he's, as you mentioned, kind of on the precipice of getting into Midworld. Like and the Man in Black even says, it's not in your nature to plan or to look that far ahead or something along those lines. But here we are, we're looking that far ahead, and Roland's looking that far ahead, and the entire thing is about looking that far ahead while also kind of doggedly plowing through whatever's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like that's Roland's whole deal. And so it's a very interesting place to start talking about Endworld when we're just getting into Midworld.
It's kind of crazy, because it seems like Walter's goal is to get Roland to scare Roland into saying, you know what, nope, it's way too big, way too much. I'm just going to go northeast and going to hire myself as a gun, maybe find another ward to take in as a surrogate son. Like, they have to know that like none of this is going to scare him off. Like, okay, well, any of those things I might die to, but I'm going to try not to, I guess.
It is weird that he does seem to be trying to dissuade him, while like very much like, no, hey dog, it's almost reverse psychology, except I don't know exactly what's going on, which makes me think, oh, he's just performing a trick.
Yeah. And
this to me almost seems like a Hail Mary on the Man in Black's part, because he's kind of been involved in Roland's life for all of his life in various capacities, and nothing has dissuaded him from going after the tower. And he realizes that Roland is a legitimate threat and is someone who should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And so here he is, just like the last time that they're going to be able to have a conversation, and the last chance that he has to like get Roland to give up this quest of his own volition. So he's just throwing everything he's got and hoping something sticks.
Yeah. And the Man in Black is playing a long game with Roland. Like I don't think
that's maybe an understatement even.
Yeah. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler to say, but like everything we've seen is, paints the Man in Black as this manipulator, this Scott Adams type, and he will continue doing this, right?
Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
No, I was making fun of that piece of shit for being a master persuader. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
okay. I didn't realize he was into like. I just know him as like the piece of shit, like weird guy.
The misogynist. He's just the master hypnotist manipulator guy. Yeah, no, it's a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was into hypnotism. So but that makes sense considering how much of a piece of shit that guy is.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Oh God. Jesus.
Sorry. Like that is a joke for like 4 people who participate in the Duckfeed Slack.
No.
Sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
It's no, good.
You're good. I didn't know he was into hypnotism, so that makes me even dislike him even further. So well done.
He also invented something called the Dill Burrito.
Yeah.
Sorry. That is Go ahead.
It was Soylent, but in a burrito form.
Yep. That is way off topic and not pertinent to anything aside from,
What if we're
talking about evil pieces
on a blade of grass?
But around this time, we kind of get to this point where the Man in Black doesn't want to speak anymore. Like to even say anything else, like it brings in this kind of terrified, mortal superstition that we haven't seen. We haven't seen that stripe of this in him so far. There's been mild hesitance up to this point. There has been there's been like, hey, I don't know, like he's been trying to cloak it, but like right now I was like, no, I cannot speak his name. I cannot go any further because that might draw his eye.
We've got a real going back to Lovecraft, this is a real like Hastur, King in Yellow kind of thing going on, which I like. Like the King of Yellow is a real good, kind of recently overused, but not traditionally overused. Not like a Cthulhu, H.P. Lovecraft character.
Yeah.
Hey Murph, you really need to watch that True Detective show.
I know. I know. It's been spoiled for me.
Okay, yeah. But even still, like it was kind of spoiled for me, and it would like the presentation is so masterful that like it doesn't matter what you know.
Right. That's what I hear. It's not about the spoiling. It's about Vince Vaughn or something, right?
No, that's season 2.
They start like at a house and there's like frat parties every night, or
I haven't.
Am I thinking about Old School?
Yeah, that's Old School.
That might be Old School.
Yeah, Will Ferrell stops being the handsome boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
And starts being the handsomest boyfriend.
Hey, Murph, do you want to start a parallel podcast that just examines True Detective and its links to Old School, the film? We can air it every other week when Those Damn Ross Kids is on.
Yep.
We'll start our own network. We'll put this duck feed garbage out of business.
That's right.
Oh no, this will be our undoing.
School Detective, here we come.
Yeah, School Detective.
Oh God,
that sounds like an anime.
We need a couple more adjectives. as the resident anime.
As the resident anime.
I realize I've never seen you in person. You might.
That's fine. There's a reason I didn't come to Austin.
You might be a Japanese drawing.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of kind of next steps here. Oh God, I'm talking like a project manager. where the Man in Black says like, hey, you know, Court gave you some terrible information or gave you terrible advice because, hey, Martin went west and guess what? Walter came to take his place. We are one and the same. Walter O'Dim is the true name of Martin that was. And so that just to circle that square, a couple episodes back, we talked about how confusing it was that it was revealed that Walter devoured Martin's soul. Well, they were just the same soul to begin with anyway. So
I kind of felt like this was, this is a Man in Black. That was another face of his. And from the beginning of this palaver, like we hear that he puts on multiple faces. And I don't think it's just as simple as putting on faces. I think he puts on, if not personalities, then personas, maybe. And that was just once Martin, quote unquote, died. That was when Walter devoured Martin's soul, basically. Like that was him, that I'm not going to use that persona or personality anymore or what have you. Which I think is a neat thing. I like that whole thing. So.
Yeah. Martin had served his purpose.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's kind of how I've always interpreted it too. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. It's so hard to tell what to take literally and figuratively, especially when it comes to like the spiritual and like cosmological nature of this world, you know? So
I do like this bit about Roland's mind a lot and how there's never been one quite like it in the history of the world. And it's just another way of making like Roland the chosen one in a way, but also like
it's not good things that make him the chosen one.
It really isn't. And I think that's why I like it, right? Like your mind is real weird, dog. Like I don't know what's going on, but like you're definitely the guy.
Slow.
If anybody can do it.
Let's bring it back to Rick and Morty. Like Morty is special because
specifically because he's so dumb, but not dumb. You know, like he's quick. And he's quick to everything except insight. He's slow, prodding, and tenacious. Right? Like you get the sense that he is like Jason almost. You know, not your friend from the design department, but just like Jason from the movies. You know.
See, I was thinking Foxtrot. I thought we were going back to Dilbert.
Yeah. I didn't realize the Foxtrot characters had names. Glasses Man 3. Man, there's been so much comic talk. Weird.
Oh, man.
But this is where we get to the tobacco, and again, just kind of saying what's going to come next. So this is what Roland paid Jake's life for. This is what Roland gave up Jake for, was to learn the next step, to get the information about where he needs to go and what he needs to do. He needs to go to the beach and the drawing will begin. And this is not a power that anybody gave him. It's simply, it just has to happen. You know, like nobody wants you to be able to do anything because you're really inconvenient. But, water must run downhill and you must be told. You will draw 3. I understand. I don't really care. And I don't really want to know. But like, it's so transactional at this point.
And then they talk for like 10 years.
Yep. Is there anything more we want to say?
Like literally 10 years.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Or this entire thing has taken 10 years as they go through it because like, Walter basically says, and my time's up. So let there be light, and he escapes in a flash of light, and Roland wakes up and he is 10 years older, which that was the part that hooked me, was like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, we see the entire world, and this knowledge either took 10 years to convey, or it took that much out of Roland to to kind of, like of his life force or whatever to come to terms with that.
What do you think is worse? Like, what would you rather? Would you rather have 10 years sucked out of you, or would you rather be caught in a night that lasts 10 years?
I don't know. It depends. Is everybody else? Is my iPhone battery still going down during the 10 years?
I mean, it's physics apply. I don't know what that means, but
I guess age in 10 years, and I'm basically doing that anyway. I'm older than 35. Like,
yeah. I mean, I'm doing that to myself with alcohol anyway. Evan, it sounded like you were going to cut in with something.
Yeah, when I was like 14 or 15 or however old I was the first time I read The Gunslinger, The way that my dorky teenage brain interpreted it was that because the king had kept the night going the whole time that they were talking, it like put them in some sort of a temporal pocket.
Yeah.
So 10 years passed, but they were kind of in stasis. But in order to keep the night going long enough for them to have that conversation and everything, time passed at an accelerated rate, and then the bubble popped and everything caught up all at once.
Yeah.
Because when I was 15, I thought way too much about this kind of thing.
So it's funny because in terms of the point of reference that we have, Roland is all that matters. You know, like he is the only person who witnessed all of this, at least as far as we know. We've looked at it. They're, you know, both players are effectively immortal. And right now, the Man in Black wants us to believe that he has died. Roland isn't really buying it, and that's a detail that is added. But Roland wakes up next to a skeleton, 10 years older, and there's nothing else. I love the half-hearted fright that you expressed with that. There's nothing
so spooky.
He doesn't age in reference to anything else. Like, he doesn't walk back through Tull and find that there are, you know, like new people have taken residence in the buildings that were there. You know, like it right. is just, you know, there is a price that is paid, not just in another person, but like in Roland's perceived longevity and vitality that kind of came through this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can tell we all have big thoughts
10 years
about
is a weird time because like numbers have always been significant, and 10 is never one of them.
Right. 10 is really boring.
I am 100% surprised that this wasn't updated to say 19 years or 19 months or I don't know, like 19. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really surprised that he stuck with the 10 years, even though it's a nice round number and it probably works with how old Roland is and how old King wanted him to be going into the drawing of the three and what happens pretty quick after that.
Yeah, and just Roland's age is so inconsistent. I mean, like not just the amount of objective time since he's been born, but just like his apparent age as he is presented. Like he just like Roland just kind of ages with King.
It's so funny. I didn't think about that, but you're absolutely right because the next book doesn't come out for quite a while, and you're absolutely. I've never thought about that, Cole. That's a really good point. Yeah. Because by the time you get to the 7th book, Roland's old as fuck.
Yep.
It's like a really disappointing version of Harry Potter.
It's also the
character
world's
ages
worst
along with
mirror
the author, not the readers.
painting of Dorian Gray, right?
I don't want to lose what Evan said. The character ages with the author, not the readers, is what Evan said.
Sorry.
Man, oh man.
Just the worst literary convention that I'm really glad has not caught on.
Pretty good.
Now I'm just thinking about if Harry Potter had aged along with J.K. Rowling instead of her target readers.
But so the books covered 7 years, I think.
Yeah.
And they were written over what, 13? That's not that bad. Like, it'd be weird for them to be in high school for that long, but
I thought we were talking about okay. I flipped it.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking about the tower. I was like, what? That doesn't seem okay.
No. What I'm saying is Rowling was on top of her shit, whereas, you know, Stephen King got distracted. Yeah.
Right. I'm saying, what if the Harry Potter books had started with Harry Potter being a 33-year-old woman?
Okay, there we go.
Look, if you want that fan fiction, I can provide you that.
Yeah.
And I'm dead serious. There's actually some pretty good Harry. You know what? Can we take that out? I don't want to admit that Harry Potter fan fiction.
Nope, it's Stan and Jeremy. I'm so sorry. We used up all of our edits.
Oh, man.
I love the idea that I walk into these with a fixed number of edits. I should use that as violence towards. No, I guess I just did. No. So
I'm gonna go ahead and register Jeremy Greer hpfanfic.info just for anybody who cares.
Man, why is that .info TLD so cheap? It really ought to be
no
more.
idea, but I love it.
Yeah. Is Kole Ross Murders People .info still available? Was that you who did that? I forget.
Oh yeah, that was definitely me.
That was you. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
The the meme where I'm a murderer that came out of Duckstream.
Yeah, Kole Ross murderfiles.info. It redirects to Hexcrank.
Yep. Oh man,
that's real good.
So this book ends kind of literally with Roland walking into the sunset. Proceeding to the beach, right? To the very very edge of the world that he knew. He's not just in the west; he is as far west as he can go, and he, speaking to nobody, with the Man in Black's apparent jawbone in his back pocket, says, I loved you, Jake. Like he, offers that small amount of penance, that admission, right? It's not something he would say to him, but it's still, something he admits, and then just sits and waits for the time of the drawing.
We got a little off topic for a little bit there. Did we get to the part where it has to be before this, where the Man in Black tells Roland, like, he has to do this? Like, I can't stop from telling you and get to giving you this power.
Oh yeah. We mentioned that a little bit, talking about how it's a force of nature, right? Like it's okay. Not something that anybody gives him, because Roland says like, oh, like, does your king, think so much of me that he would let me do this? And like, well, no, this is just something that you do.
Gotcha. Okay. I just wanted, because that's one of my, I really like that idea that, like, he just has it. He just gets it. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to give it to you, but you're going to get it anyway.
Yeah. Why would the king give you the ability to undo him?
I mean, is this there's always a Jake, there's always a gunslinger, there's always a tower.
I mean, so like it's fraught with destiny, right? At the very least, like there is a certainty about this that is kind of being presented, and a lot of what the Man in Black is saying will, like any good long running series, will take on a different context as you kind of proceed along. As
long as we are literally not reading BioShock Infinite, I think I'll be okay.
We're not. We're not. It is not that level of very loose and kind of unsatisfying determinism. It's thought out specifically because of the fact that this is a revision.
Also, all of the DLC for these books are actually good.
Oh, okay.
I'm just really happy that we finally found the Venn diagram that encompasses anime, old school, and BioShock Infinite on a Stephen King podcast.
Hey, that's the magic of this free flowing kind of format. We're out here, we're finding elements, we're putting them together. This is alchemy that we're performing.
Cole's making jokes for 4 people on the Patreon backer Slack. Here at Radio Free Bid World, our barrier to entry is very low. Jump in whenever you want.
Yep. It's not impenetrable at all. And so that's where it kind of ends, with visions of Roland imagining this battle at the tower, dreamed his long dreams of the tower, to which he would someday come at dusk and approach, winding his horn to some unimaginable final battle. And that's the end. It leaves us with this hook. And there's one question that I want to ask both of you, Evan, and of you, Jeremy, as people who, maybe didn't read this when you were waiting for the drawing of the 3, but let's talk about that anticipation, because we're introduced to characters. We're the rest of the quest is all but laid out. Like, what's our state of mind? And Murph, you can chime in on this too. Like, what's our state of mind? Either coming to this fresh, recalling what it was like when we were fresh, or actually coming to it fresh, like Murph is doing. Like, what are we thinking about what comes up?
I was honestly incredibly curious what Murph's take was on this, just because I remember the first time I read it, and I knew that the second book was called The Drawing of the 3, but I had no idea what that meant at all. And by the time I finished this book, I was more confused.
So I am anticipating. Like, I don't know what drawing is, and I've got some ideas, but I don't think for me this book is like the series is not laid out. In fact, I'm still kind of like, okay, he's on a beach. What's happening? Yeah. Like he gave up all this to know, hey, go to the beach.
People do that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Yeah, no, for me, like the future is still unwritten. I know he's going to encounter 3 people, probably. And then there's probably a tower.
So you're just making the safe bets.
Yeah,
where did the risky Murph predictions from last year come? I want to see those.
So do we want to go? This is what I think drawing is. All right, here we go. To keep up with our pun theme, clearly drawing has to do with like taking a gun out, but then it's the bullets you don't shoot. Yeah, so it's the bullets you don't shoot at people, and then either it kills them or it doesn't, based on if you were meant to or not. Because
you figured it out. He pulls the gun, he shoots it, but the bullet is actually an egg, and as the bullet flies, it hatches and grows into a person
or a xenomorph, and then
yep. This is the prequel to Prometheus. I didn't have the heart to tell you.
Oh man. Or that. My other thing is drawing has something to do with divination and guns, and so like maybe he's shooting a bunch of cards in the air, because that's that's how you find stuff out.
Yeah, it's Wild West.
Yeah, that's the entirety of the second book.
Oh yeah, the drawing of the 3. Roland throws up 3 cards. He shoots all 3. It's an ace, a 3 of hearts, and an old maid. The end.
This is a fun joke. I can recall where I was at with this, which is I was incredibly excited to meet everybody, and not just because I thought they were going to be new characters and new friends, but specifically because he's given a loaded hand with this. Nothing that is presented sounds like it's going to be good, right? Here's the prisoner, here's this drug addict, this, and all sympathy to people who are, suffering with addiction, but like on this quest, possibly a liability. Here's this lady of shadows, this, two-faced person who has no respect for flatware,
blue plates.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of uncertainty right now about whether or not this represents possibility or hindrance as it goes along,
See, if this was an anime, like he would 100% be fighting 3 mysterious figures in the shadows, and at the end of the book, one of the smallest of the figures would step out, and you would see their face. Like this, that's how Dark Tower the anime would go.
I would actually really like to see Dark Tower the anime.
I think it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Dream,
actually,
keep chasing that dream.
Is it JoJo's really?
JoJo's is pretty weird. There's literally a fight where they are falling down a chimney that lasts about 20 minutes. Like the house is on fire, they are falling down the chimney as like fire abounds, and they're just punching each other constantly.
Is one of the characters that are punching each other the one that's named REO Speedwagon? Because that's the only fact I know about JoJo's, is that there's a character named REO Speedwagon.
It is not. It is JoJo and Dio.
Does Roundabout play at any point?
Possibly.
At the very end.
I don't understand this meme, and I'm too afraid to ask.
JoJo is effing nuts, guys.
I pray that Vine is still available so I can link that video. Griffin McElroy is a fucking genius, is what he is.
True.
So let's get our final thoughts on this book, since we are in the privileged position to kind of recap our feelings on this. I already kind of gave mine. I have a lot more appreciation for not just the Gunslinger as its own kind of individual work, which is kind of regarded as being like the best standalone, book in the series. Like it's a great introduction, but it tells a fairly complete story, at least in terms of its arc and everything. But coming to it with the perspective and kind of looking at it with a close eye, there's always the worry that it's not going to stand up to scrutiny or discussion. Like there's not going to be enough there. The fact that we have managed to turn this book into this whole season of the show, and we're all kind of learning from each other in our interpretations, just kind of speaks to, how well this thing stands. If it was a worse thing, it wouldn't hold up to scrutiny quite so well. And so I am incredibly excited, looking forward into this, and I have turned the discussion of the book into the discussion of this show, so I will pass the torch off to whoever wants to go next.
I'll jump in here because I was, for a long, long time, I would have told you that this is my favorite Stephen King book, like over The Stand, over like his big ones, over It or whatever. This was always the go-to because I thought just the world building, the ending chapter, like up until I was about probably 18 or 19, I would have probably told you was like the most fantastical thing I'd ever read in my life with the weird vision size thing, the blade of grass. Coming back to it now, especially with the changes, I feel like the book is diminished in my eyes a little bit, but I feel like it's still just a really solid read. Like coming out of this, and to go back to your earlier question before we got distracted by anime and Harry Potter, I was so glad as a kid that I had the drawing of the three right next to this book. Like I had that book immediately to go into.
Because
and I'm glad of that.
Your family liked King a lot too, right? Like you were,
my mom like had all of the Stephen King books. Like
nice.
There was like shelves of hardbacks of Stephen King and Dean Koontz, Patricia Cornwell, like all of that classic like airport read stuff.
Yeah.
And so like being able to pick up that next book and go immediately into it, especially with like no spoiler warning here, but like there was a very shocking beginning to the beginning of book 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels really, really good. And now reading it, I'm so excited to get to the rest of the series. Watching my wife, who has been on the show a couple of times now, she's like well into The Wasteland. Oh no, I'm sorry. She told me today she started Wizards and Glass. She's already on book 4. Yeah. So like
she's going to laugh us a couple times.
I know. Right. There's something about taking this kind of detailed approach and really getting into it that makes me just want to speed run this series. Like I really, and this happens too with the other Duckfeed podcast I'm on, Days of Future Cast, where we do these X-Men shows. Those episodes should be bad, but just when we start covering them with this minute detail, I just want to, like, it makes me like it all the more. Mm-hmm. And the fact that these are actually good and not just crappy cartoons helps out a lot. So I came out of this, like I said, a little bit diminished as far as what I had built up in my head over the years as the Dark Tower books, but I am still super excited about it.
Yeah. Evan, how about you?
Funny kind of mostly on topic anecdote. The first time that I read this, I think I mentioned in the first episode, it was my dad's paperback copy from 1982 or whenever it came out. And my dad had the entire series. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to read this. I'm just going to power through this whole series. It's going to be great. I'm 15. I have nothing better to do with my life. So I finished the first book and I realized that my dad doesn't have the complete series. He has everything but the second book.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
So I go to the library, and the library, obviously, that's the only one that they don't have. And I'm, 15 and broke and don't have money to buy a $17 paperback because for whatever reason, I remember that was how much it cost. It was like almost a $20 paperback book.
Yeah.
And
fate has decreed that this will be as difficult for you as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I wound up doing, because this was before I had, an iPod or anything like that, the MP3 player that I had could hold, I think, 4 songs. It was like a Rio MP3 player that could hold 4 or 5 songs. So I wasn't going to be able to get it on any kind of a device to read it or listen to it. So I took my dad's Garmin GPS that had a headphone jack and for some reason had Audible.
Oh, God.
And so I downloaded the Drawing of the Three audiobook using the free Audible sign-up credit.
Yeah?
Onto my dad's GPS and then stole my dad's GPS for a week and would just lay in bed with my headphones on listening to the objectively wonderful audiobook on my dad's old gigantic GPS.
Jesus.
That's great.
That's hilarious.
That is dedication is what that is.
And so I don't know if
that's the best thing I've ever heard.
I don't know if it's a combination of like, reading the original paperback and then going through all of that to experience the second book in such a bizarre fucking fashion. But I really, really love The Gunslinger, and the drawing of the three is pretty consistently my favorite book in the series, and might be my favorite Stephen King book. It's definitely up there.
Yeah. And we're right on the edge of it.
Yeah. I'm gonna be sitting in on a lot more episodes next season.
Yeah. Murph, so, we've turned to you consistently for your, fresh new perspective on this, somebody who's coming to it. We've had, several people who've filled this role, but you're here now. Are you excited to continue?
Yes. I'm kind of actually surprised that I hadn't read this in my youth. Seems like, oh yeah, like I was that kid that was reading in class. Like I was that nerdy kid. I read a lot. I read consistently. I read quickly, and I'm really, really surprised that I hadn't read this. Like I had at one point, I think probably in middle school, I read The Stand in maybe like a 48-hour period.
Holy shit.
Well, in special circumstances, we were driving in a car from South Carolina to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And like
to pick up a lot of mescaline so I can.
Yeah. I mean, like, and so there was literally nothing else to do, right? This was before phones, guys.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah. So it was just like, all right, well, guess this book's thick.
This looks like 12 hours worth of book.
Right. Yeah. Like it was that and Isaac Asimov's The Foundation.
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, no, this book is for younger me. If I was younger, this book probably would have blown my mind. And like, oh man, the future can be the past and the past can be the future. No, yeah. I'm kind of, this is kind of a shameful kind of nerd corner along with like I don't know, like Smallville and
oh man, don't compare these two. Yeah.
Like in the 90s. What's my other we was just talking about this, but yeah, this is just one of those weird kind of nerd shame spots that I haven't filled in yet, and I'm glad to do it in such a good company.
Yeah. It's not never too late, but it's rarely too late. Yeah.
Well, look, I've also watched anime this week, so like literally anything else I do is better than that.
Yeah, you just set your baseline. Well, that's awesome. So next time we're going to be talking about The Eyes of the Dragon. That is a little bit difficult to get a hold of. The ebook version is not as readily available as I would like. But we do have some people who are going to be on that. I need to read it over Christmas break. Again, we are time shifted to an absurd degree, but that is how this show is possible. It's also possible thanks to just all the people who have kind of assembled and joined the panel throughout this season. Chase Greenlee, Patty Smith, Autumn Greer, Stephen Vayu, Brian, Dr. Static, Brayton Cameron was kind enough to join us. And then obviously we've got the folks here. Thank you so much, Jeremy, Murph, and Evan. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and coming here and lending your insight to talk about this. I'm so happy with the way this is going, and I'm looking forward to talking not just about, the next book, but pretty much everything else related to this. If you want to, so I'm kind of surprised that this short 20-page chapter turned into the longest episode of the season. But we'd like to start taking responses and things like that. We will pepper them through as they as they fit. You can do that either at Duckfeed.tv/contact or by going to radiofreemedworld.com and using the contact link there. On that page, you can also check out each episode's individual page and find not just details about our hosts, but also links of note. You can find those vines that we mentioned. You can find the link to that Sombra app, which I'm going to play with over the next couple of days. It's all cool stuff. And the usual things I talk about at the start: iTunes ratings and reviews, the Patreon at patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv, that is all there. Let's go through the hosts and say where you can be found. Jeremy, where can people find you?
Easiest way to talk to me is at JG Greer on Twitter, and there you can find me retweeting links to my 87 podcast that I've started this week.
Oh no, I should have warned you off of this path, Jeremy.
It was all your fault. I blame you. It was you and Gary that got me on Bonfireside Chat, and it's been basically like great from there. So it's all your fault.
Oh, your blood is on our hands. No. Murph, how about you?
Dinosaursarecool.com and at Dork Night Show on Twitter.
Awesome. And Evan, how about you?
I've got an evanjonesthorne.com set up if you want to read some stuff about music or industrial machining, because that's pretty much the two things that I write about, because that's what I can get people to pay me to write about. I also have I'm on Twitter at Mr_Harder, and I run the Sad Paul Stanley Twitter account as well, which is a lot of fun if you like stupid jokes and like or hate the music of Kiss. And I'm on every single episode of Teenage Dirtbags that deals with Eiffel 65.
God, that episode's so good.
There's another one. There's another one coming.
Is there?
Is there? Oh boy.
Yeah.
There's
Oh boy.
video.
Sneak previews. Oh, go listen to Teenage Dirtbags. It's so good.
We will return to Toucan 5 or whatever that fucking planet was called.
Oh boy. I'm blue.
Seriously, teenagedirtbags.co. It is a wonderful show, as is pretty much everything on. I don't know why I hedged that. It's my fucking network. Everything on Duckfeed.tv is great. Go listen to it. But most of all, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to the assembled hosts. And until next time, 2 weeks from now, long days and pleasant nights.
Icky sigh.